go. I'm getting there. Got it. All right, welcome to our meeting. I posted this live for people that show up at our school. The secretaries know, they'll escort them up to my office if somebody does show up and want to be at the hearing live. It's also being recorded on our YouTube live channel. So for quorum, Dr. Winsor present, Ms. Garrison.
Present.
Ms. Mendonca.
Here.
Dr. Pena.
Here.
Dr. Tietgen.
I'm here.
Yay. Ms. Baker's not here yet. Ms. McNeill has some news I'll share next month. And Ms. Schmaltz is not here yet, but we do have quorum at exactly 2:03. Let me put up the notes from last June 27th. I know, I don't think Mr. Tietgen, I think you were there maybe.
I was not present.
Let me share. This is the right one, right? June 27th, yep. Mainly we did the executive director's report and the super eval, the 2 resolutions, and the proposed budget was approved for being proposed. Always confuses me. Any discussion or changes that need to be on there, Ms. Mendonca, Ms. Garrison, Ms. Pena?
Best I can tell on my phone. I don't see anything that's wrong.
I entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I make the motion.
Motion.
I'll
Beth.
second. This is Victoria.
Second, Victoria. All in favor, please indicate by a yes.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you. All right. The next item is to I expected Joel to be here. Okay, Ms. Baker is here. Hello, Ms. Baker. Good to see you.
Hello, hello.
The next item is a motion to adopt or deny the Paideia Academies Inc.'s proposed budget for fiscal year 2023. Let me get that on. Quick. There it is. I reviewed it today again, and the only differences are the changes that we asked Joel to make on names and different things. Let me see if I can get that closer for us. Send Joel a text like, dude, where are you? I mean, sir, where are you? You know, let me let me table this one until Joel gets on. I think I'd feel more comfortable with that. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Very good. Let's move on to the teacher salary scale, and we'll explain that. Okay, the backstory on the teacher salary scale is the adopted the budget from the state increased far beyond what we had anticipated and hoped for, and also the classroom site fund money increased a whole bunch. And we had already put in the budget to give a $4,000 re-signing bonus, and we did that year by year because we weren't certain we could commit to it. But because of the elevation of the money that the state is now given on the weighted counts amount, that it's sustainable now. So we went ahead and just put the $4,000 and just increased our salary schedule everywhere by $4,000. And that's why we're coming back to have a new board approved salary schedule for the teachers at this point. So as for example, A1, that was 44,310 and on down the line.
Brian, have we always had the signing bonus built into the salary schedule like this?
No, we never have. It was always like this would have been 44,000 on A1, and then they'd get this year they would have gotten 1,000 each quarter, but now it's just going to be built right into their paycheck. And then also the other thing, like last year we did a $3,000 sign-on bonus, re-sign bonus, and it wasn't guaranteed. So this year wasn't sure if we could do it again.
Right.
Another place maybe to watch for. I didn't change the I think the last time we did this was in 2018, man. I think it's been a while. Victoria, you think it's been that long, or 2020?
2019 maybe.
Yeah. And so it was like we'd accept 5 years of experience. Some districts accept 7. We also negotiate into that at times we really want somebody.
You had highlighted just now a typographical error, 6 parentheses 5 years experience.
Yikes. Okay, good. Wow.
Yeah.
So is there any, there's no indication in this document that the base salary includes what we're calling a signing bonus? Do we even actually differentiate that money from any other compensation anywhere else?
Say it one more time. I'm not sure what you mean.
So you're saying that we would have, in previous schedules, we would have had a classroom CSF supported bonus that was described separately from the teacher's salary, right?
I think it's down here, right here, that we didn't put a number in it because we weren't always sure to commit to exact number.
Well, that's performance pay, but we had a signing bonus previously, and we had identified it as a signing bonus.
And it came from the classroom site fund. That's how we paid it out.
Right. But now we're not identifying it as a signing bonus. We're just upping everyone's base salary.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good, I think.
It's good, yeah.
I'm probably a little bit slow on this. So is this just altogether different than a couple of meetings back when we did, I think we talked about these kind of like maybe retention type payments? Is that the same as this? So that's different. than this. You know what I'm talking
Right.
about?
Yeah, so that we spoke about before was just a retaining bonus, like you sign your contract before April 29th, then you're eligible for the 4,000, or 1 year it was 3,000 for the coming year. We just went ahead and took that money and just put it inside the salary scale. So it's
Okay.
always guaranteed. They just got that for every year now. They'll just always be that level.
Okay, got it. So you lose that kind of retention hook as a, I guess, people would just assume they have it. I mean, you don't have to do anything additional.
Right.
You feel like that will be better served as just flat in salaries than trying to incentivize,
We have that coming too. So in the next item, we're going to talk about the classroom site fund budget, which is what we're talking about, that topic that
Okay.
we're going to show you how we're going to use some more monies to incentivize growth as well.
Got it.
We also learned that Mesa Public Schools increased their salary to an average of 61, was it, Beth, Victoria? Or something like that.
Yeah. I think it's like
Texas
61, average. It's
average salary. And we have a great cash position, as you all know. And the discussion with the executive team was, let's not sit on this money. And especially with an increase we're getting from the state, let's pay our teachers better. One thing I also noticed, Ben, is this one right here goes that non-certified, they can go up to 5 years. But this paragraph here, has to do with column A, says 6, not to exceed 6 years of experience, but they can't even go to 5. So I think that was the confusion. So I probably just need to change this line. To 5. There we go. I think one other thing we added was for this right here is a bachelor's degree plus a certificate, and non-competitive. Competitive, the CP, means that they have an endorsement in math or reading, special ed, and we added giftedness. An endorsement in giftedness would make them a competitive teacher and paid in another lane. Any other discussion on the salary scale? We've run it in exhaustion with Joel in our budget. The budget will support it.
Good. Move to adopt the teacher salary schedule with the one amendment to correct the typo.
Thank you. Any second on that?
I'll second.
I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
Who did that?
Ms.
Zuri?
Baker. It's fine, yeah.
I'll do a roll call vote, please. Dr. Winsor, yes. Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Ms. Mendonca?
Yes.
Dr. Pena?
Yes.
Dr. Tietgen?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Unanimous, passes unanimous. All right, now we will move to item 5, which I wish Joel was on this thing. Where is he? I'm recording this. I shouldn't be talking that way.
Move to table till Joel gets here. Move on to the guidebooks.
Very good.
Give him some space.
All right. We have gone through the two guidebooks, inside, outside, every which way I could think of over the last 2 months. Does anybody want me to put it up there for us to go through? I certainly can.
So I don't mean to speak for anyone else. I read through the current version. I was curious, since I missed conversation on these, if there were any sticking points that the board worked together to resolve.
I don't think there's any sticking points we found inside of the guidebook. We've had it for so long and there wasn't, significant changes in it.
Or are we starting with the elementary or the liberal arts?
I pulled the elementary up. It was just the first thing in my hand, but I can go the other way if you wish.
I think our agenda had liberal arts first. I'm not sure it matters.
Let me do that. Yeah, let me do that. I didn't see that. As a background, also, I will let you know that both handbooks were reviewed during our 10-year review with the Charter Board and the 1-year review with the Charter Board for PLA. And any legal compliance things, we had a couple of things on our enrollment process, a couple other minor issues that we just had to change, and we changed all that to be in compliance. Did you see anything in there, Ben, Dr. Tietgen, about anything that caught your eye or concern?
No, not at all. I mean, as you said, the elementary handbook has been pretty well in hand for quite some time. The Liberal Arts Academy one is newer, but it's not dissimilar. Were there any notable additions to account for the older students?
Question. So one of the notable additions I crafted with help from our attorney, from Osborne Maldon, was I inserted a section here called attendance of infraction. Our attendance was so horrific last year that we crafted this section here just to let parents know what is an attendance infraction and what could happen, including retention on infractions. The other thing that we crafted was a safety statement warning parents or notifying the public that you can't come in here and yell or where is that? Right there, disruption of an educational institution. So we put in here clearly the principal of a school campus is the main authority in charge, and everyone is required to obey lawful orders from the chief of the school or the principal, and failure to do so is this. Who does the law apply to? What does interference mean? What happens if you break the law? So that's in both of our handbooks now, which wasn't, that's a main addition.
Can you go back to the attendance infraction section?
Yes.
I mean, we're trying to use the handbook to reduce truancy. Is that right?
To more clearly notify, yes, to reduce it, also to more clearly notify and have documentation. Like a parent will say, well, you never told us that my child could be retained if they miss 50 days, which we had students miss half the year and didn't know or claimed that we didn't tell them. So I just
Jeez.
put it in here in writings, and yeah, it's in our handbook. Yes.
Yeah, I was looking at the language again just now. And now I'm looking at the wrong document. Where was
Which one? Right there. This.
Yeah, so
this
there.
alert, right there. Yeah.
So this appears after the truancy header. I was confused about when a scholar reaches 10%. That's reaches 10% of missed school year.
Of even time. So they even calculate if I'm 30 minutes late, they calculate that into an infraction. Of the school year, yes.
Okay.
So there's 180 days, and that also breaks down into hours. And the attendance infraction can even go down into breaking down into the hours that the child missed of school. This year, I'm working, now that I'm back in my office, our registrar and I will review our attendance infraction information, and we will reinstitute what we used to do of every month, send out those letters of warning and start the truancy track again. One of the challenges we had in the state or country was that we were forbidden from, during the pandemic, we were not allowed to do attendance infractions and stuff like that, because they didn't want to have us encouraging kids to come to school who were sick. So last year, I think we felt the repercussions of that, which I think also impacted our academic data. Well, I know it did.
Okay.
Is there no other discussion on that? Entertain a motion if somebody would like to make it to, almost could do 5 and 6 or 6 and 7. They're very, very similar, but 2 motions are required.
Yeah, I move to adopt the PLA Academy Family Guidebook for the 22-23 school year as presented.
Okay, any second on that, please?
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, Victoria beat you. All right, let's do a roll call vote. That is number 6. Dr. Winsor, yes. Miss Garrison?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendonca?
Yes.
Dr. Pena?
Yes.
Dr. Tietgen?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous. In number 7, is there any discussion or a review you'd want me to pull that up on the screen?
Can I just ask Dr. Winsor, do we have reinstatement of attendance infractions for the elementary school as well?
Yes, it's exactly the same.
Okay.
And the safety part is word for word in both campuses.
Got it. So then I move to adopt the Elementary Academy Family Guidebook for 22-23 as presented.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
And a roll call vote, please. That is number 7. Dr. Winsor, yes. Miss Garrison?
Yes.
Miss Mendonca?
Yes.
Dr. Pena?
Yes.
Dr. Tietgen?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous. All right. Well, we're going to drive on to the. That is so strange that he would not be.
think he thought it was tonight?
Maybe. I mean, I was just communicating with him just not too long ago. Let me call him. Okay, we're moving on without him.
Yeah, and I think the last meeting he said maybe he had something, and that he was going to connect with you before. So I remember that vaguely.
That's true. And we did connect quite a bit just before. So let me share my screen on, we're going to go to item. Which one is that? That's
Item,
3. Wish I could find the main, our dashboard. Those dashboard items are what I'm always most concerned with. You know, that we have the days cash on hand. So I'm going to try to find that. Jill just like, hey, when is it? Like, dude, now. Okay, so let's find those couple of things that I wanted to make sure of. It always makes sense when I go through it with Joel and then finding stuff like this right here, this line here, the budget year for classroom site fund. That's $743,000. See how it was 429 last year? That's quite a jump. And that's allowing us to do the next item that we're going to talk to you about, the classroom site fund bonus project. Guess I take the guy for granted, you know. Logging in now. Okay, here he comes. By the way, the DocuSign worked so well. Getting those documents signed was the best ever. Come on now, Joel. I don't see the Zoom invite. All right. Let me stop sharing for 1 second. Let me get my guy on here. How do you invite? Invite. You had a good rhythm going, Tietgen. It's like, get these meetings in a good rhythm.
Well, there
going.
were no numbers in those other ones.
That's true. That's true. Good point. All right, Mr. Brice, are you on your computer or phone?
I'm on my computer, but I do not have a functioning camera.
That's all right. I just wondered if do you have our adopted budget available, or do you want me to show my screen? and share?
I've got it from mine and I can put that up. It's the
I'm gonna
same.
make you co-host. Yes, sir.
Let's see here. All right. Let's get rolling. I'm assuming we're on that right now, Brian?
Yes, we are.
All right. Sorry for the delay, guys. I got some form of confusion with the time for this meeting. I had one invite that I set for myself, Brian, for 2 o'clock in the morning. That must have been the issue. And I had it keyed in for 4 this afternoon as well. All right.
Can you zoom a little bit?
Yep, I'm making it bigger. Can you all see that okay?
Now I can.
All right, so this year, as I reminded you last time, it's a 3-part budget approval process because of when they got the permanent file out to us. So what you're seeing now is still in what they call the preliminary budget file form. The new file, the only changes they made were to the actual funding formula and the calculation of revenues, which are pages that we never really review because they're not presentable. It's just a bunch of raw data. So here we are today, proposed budget on the 27th of June, adopted today, over here on the left-hand side, the 7th. Nothing has changed in this budget since the proposed version was approved. So I can go through this again if you wish, or we can.
It might be
forward.
good because Dr. Tietgen was not.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We had people missing. So let's go through it.
Hey, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I could just ask a couple specific questions
Sure.
to spare everyone else having to do what they already did due to my silly absence. I noticed, is that okay with everyone? Or does
Yeah.
anyone else need a refresher before we approve?
No, that's fine. And
Okay. So Joel, we heard the good news already about being able to increase teachers' salaries by almost 16%, which is the best thing in all these numbers, I think. I did want to ask about the relationship of the increase in the CSF to the increase in our overall expected expenses. We're seeing like it looks like about a $320,000 increase from CSF, from classroom site project funds. But our year-to-year increase in, for example, line 100 there, regular education, shows $1.2 million in additional expenses. So
Yeah.
can you point out where the other revenue is coming from?
Yeah, so this part of what causes confusion with this, and this is a super important question, is every year the kind of the allocation of expenses can change from what we're seeing here on this page 2, which is what we call school-wide programs, state equalization, Prop 123, and all local funds. Those are the expenses presented here. And then because right now we are using ESSER funding from the Fed at a much higher level than we normally use federal funds, there's this shift that's occurring over these budget years from different pots. A lot of it's instruction and then some debt service where we're not spending as much on the state side and we're spending a lot more on the Fed side, which is presented on this next page. Okay. So it makes it really difficult to notice like consistency from one year to the next like you normally could, because in a normal situation without ESSER, there's a simple pattern that we consistently kind of move up in expenses as we grow. So this budget on the whole, on the Fed side, let me see if I can answer this question easily. We are proposing to pay more in classroom site funds than we have in years past in the form of bonuses. and will support raises that we're giving also with classroom site funds. This year, this increase of 73% over the prior year has to do with what we're projecting spending, but it also ties directly to what we're projecting to get in classroom site funds. So here's a pretty good chunk of increase there. We're also utilizing ESSER funding, which is described here in line 17. It's rolled into every other federal program that's not an entitlement. So it's difficult to see, but a bunch of that additional support is provided from here. We're using debt service to do some of this. So what you're going to see now on page 1 is these numbers right here, function 1,000, 6,100, and 6,200. Teachers and parapros and interventionists are paid out of that line. So that 52% increase that we're looking at there, a lot of that has to do with we're pulling some of the Fed spending out of, or some of what was Fed spending out of ESSER and replacing it with debt service. That's why this number here on line 11 goes down so much. It's a shift in allocation. And then the raises that we're providing for that are not CSF related are on this line, as well as expansion of positions as we grow. So it's like a 3-pronged thing that's changing the numbers here. Does that help at all, Ben?
No, that's perfect. Yeah. So will we see a flex then back in the other direction next year when we start to service the debt on the new extension or expansion?
Well, we'll see. Yeah, great question. So this number that's presented here on line 11, debt service paid for from state equalization, would normally be somewhere around $1 million right now. So when we add that new debt, it'll be somewhere around $1.25 million, because it's interest only. It's the portion that we're looking at here. We're picking up a bunch of that with ESSER funding. And when ESSER 3 runs out at the end of fiscal year 2024, you'll see this number jump back up to that $1.25 million range. And then you'll see the Fed spending go down quite a bit, because we won't have this huge ESSER pot to pick from. It's going to be just the regular entitlements at that point. So the gamble that we're making, and it's not much of a gamble, is that we will have grown in our enrollment to the point where the state revenues from state equalization, Prop 123, CSF, and so on are sufficient to make up what we've lost at that point in ESSER funding. And our projection indicates that's clearly what will happen if we just maintain a moderate level of growth like we always have.
Sweet.
Good question.
Yeah, that's a really important question, because this budget it looks different than last year's, and next year's will look different than this one because of this play between the two primary funding sources.
Yeah.
The total numbers move up in an understandable manner. The allocation between funds is what gets a little bit weird.
Joel, I never can't find it, but for our projected days cash, debt service coverage, and end of the year surplus profit, whatever you want to call that, where's that?
That's something that is not in the state budget.
Yeah,
that is in the budget tool that we work with separately, Brian. I'm going to put that up on the screen real quick and show you, because keep in mind, board, as well, there are two different budget forms that we use.
Yeah, that's true.
The state budget, we model down just a little bit. We back off the enrollment to be somewhat conservative. So it's built on our operating budget, but it's not going to be, I's dotted, T's crossed, ticked and tied. The one that I'm going to show you now, maybe, is the one that we execute this budget. This is our internal operating budget. It is the reality of our financial plan, and this is the one we adhere to. So way too small. Let's get bigger here. So this one for 2023, we're projecting 9.985 million in overall revenues based on a higher student enrollment. I've budgeted in the state budget at 930, I believe, on the ADM side, and we're looking at 936 here. $8.7 million in ordinary expense. We finished the year at a 1.7 projected coverage, because ESSER is really supporting us quite a bit this year, and we don't need it, is what that indicates. We are utilizing it because we have to before it runs out. So what that does is builds cash. You can look down here and see that happening. Even with the increased daily expenses, we went up.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me right now? 277.
Yeah, a fair amount of liquidity is what they call that. That's the technical term, is a boatload.
We're all gonna take 9 months off.
it's an unusual, and keep in mind, we were highly liquid before COVID. So this just kind of, it gave us a lot more resource. We're looking at this new indebtedness for the facilities. It wouldn't have been wise to look at a large cash play, I think, right now. But when we refi and take all of this out into one public issue and wrap all three projects together, there might be a reason at that point we would not borrow money for debt service reserves and that sort of thing. We would actually fund it with our own cash because we have enough of it. Why pay 30 years of interest on something that you didn't need to? So anyway, that's where we're at. It's a great year.
What's the projected net income?
Projected net ordinary income for the upcoming year is $828,000.
I was gonna say that's what that one. Oh my goodness.
And that's actually that's net income after depreciation and amortization. So that's when we talked this last time, Brian, about our deploying these funds for impact. And our financial plan in my mind does not have a need to build additional liquidity. We're not planning on a whole new K-8 site in 2 years that has a huge risk involved with it, anything like that. We want to deploy the monies that we're making in a year to make the biggest impact for our students. So some of the stuff we've talked about here, I think, is a direct answer to that. Retaining high quality teachers and focusing on pushing results, making sure there's not an unfunded need in the classroom. Anything that's needed, we can do. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts on that one.
All right. Thank you. Any other discussion on the ADE? How do we word this thing? The proposed budget to approve the proposed budget, approve the adopted budget for fiscal year 2023.
I move to adopt as presented.
I hear a second.
I'll second. This is Zuri Baker.
Thank you, Zuri. Roll call vote on item 3. Dr. Winsor, yes. Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Ms. Mendonca?
Yes.
Dr. Pena?
Yes.
Dr. Tietgen?
Yes.
And Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, let's move to, if you can stop sharing your screen, Joel.
Are we moving off of this topic, Brian?
Yes, but we're going to move to the CSF project.
Okay, perfect.
Very good. Let me make sure I've got it.
You're going to collect signatures on the signature page for those budgets, Brian?
Yes. I know how to do it now. It's awesome.
Perfect.
Okay, let me make sure I got this right one. Okay, I do. All right, and the Classroom Site Fund is really meant to reward and recognize effectiveness and highly effective teachers and teachers that are impacting growth and achievement. So the question I asked our team was, what can we do to really have a wow factor? And I believe it was Joel threw out, what if we just put $10,000 out on the line? So we went down through the budget to see how we could do that. This one remains the same as we had in the previous CSF plan, where they're compensated on their level of effectiveness, and a portion of that, according to the law, has to do with also their data of a student achievement, a growth and achievement. So that's no change. Where we changed it was we want to throw a large amount that would be an eye opener and a really high wow factor to get us the growth we need and to support the principles in our focus on data intervention and really moving kids up the growth trajectory. So this proposal to you, and Joel, I met with Victoria and I met with the principals this morning, and they're on board, and we have ideas about how they could, because the main question Joel kept pushing us on was, we don't want to just throw money if it's not really going to impact growth. And both the principals are highly engaged. They want this. They say this will impact growth. So the idea is to receive an additional $7,000 for growing our scholars at or above the 60th percentile growth percentile, as measured by the MAP assessment, the fall to spring growth report. But if somebody didn't enroll until after the fall one was done, well, you can use the winter to spring for that data. But if they enrolled after the winter, after the January assessment, they're not counted in our data. We have 2 eligibility requirements to get into this pool. Number 1 is they have to be rated effective or highly effective on the effectiveness rating scale, that they're an effective teacher or highly effective teacher in the end of the year rating. And then at least, Joe, this is where Victoria might be able to help me understand what we did. At least 25% of their homeroom advisory group scholars are at or above the 50th percentile fall to spring or the winter to spring growth line.
This is one worth discussion, Brian, I think, to understand what that means, because if I'm not mistaken, 50th percentile means an average of staying on, like it's a year's growth over the course of a year. They did what was expected. Is that the right way of looking at 50th percentile?
Yes, and this is just eligibility. So one of the questions, board members, was we analyzed the data from last year. There were a few teachers who didn't even grow their own students. Maybe only 10% of them got above that line, but they would have participated in the team money, but they didn't get their own house in order. So they kind of drug the team down. So that's why we put a couple of eligibility. So that's why the 50, Miss Garrison, did I misunderstand on this one right here that we talked about this morning?
No, that's why there is that piece there about being eligible with the 25% of scholars, and then also the other piece of being effective.
Since they don't even get paid if they're not at least 25% of the 60th percentile, why wouldn't we want to just align those two? That's the part I want to understand. But I didn't test the 50th percentile in my financial analysis, and I don't know what that would cost us. It looks like the payment would be the same though, because they don't even make money under this plan until they're at the 25% of the 60th percentile anyway.
Right. Yeah, that wouldn't impact the money at all. It just says, hey, you can't even be participating. You can't be
eligibility only. Okay. Okay. Then I don't have an opinion on that one, since it doesn't change the payout.
Yeah, it doesn't
Well,
change.
but I thought you were saying that means they would participate in that grade level or school-wide growth.
Right. If they had 25% of their kids above the 50th percent. Oh, I see what you're saying. So let's say they got 30% of the kids above the 50th percentile, but none of them above the 60th percentile. Is that what you're saying, growth?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that would be, we're limiting it to, they don't even get the group or the school-wide money unless they're at least 25% of homeroom advisory group at the 50th percentile. Obviously, they wouldn't get paid on personal at that level anyway.
No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. Right.
But that, what we were trying to eliminate, but not completely discourage, we want that collaboration. We just don't want people that drew the overall numbers down getting paid anyway.
And that's only 6 kids. When we look at it in the numbers, that's 6 or 7 scholars. The rest of it, let me go through the rest of it. We can come back to any sticking points or clarifications. What we do is we'd pay out a calculated by the percent of scholars at or above the 60th percentile growth line, meaning that if you have 80% of the scholars at or above the 60th percentile growth line, you get 100% of the money in that bucket. 25 to 79%, you just get whatever percent it is. Like if it's 31%, that's a percent you get. 62%, that's the percent you get of that money. 0 to 24, you get none of you're not even eligible for any of the money in the bucket. So if we look at your homeroom or advisory group, and I get, there's $4,200 available in that bucket. of money. So if I get 80% of my kids in my homeroom, I get $4,200. But if I get anything less, then it would be whatever percent of that I have in my homeroom or advisory group. Now, in my grade level group, there's $2,100 available. So in our grade level, if we have 80% of our kids in our grade level, 60th percent or above, we all get $2,100 each. But if in our grade level, we have 50% of the kids above that 60th percentile, we'll get half of that, which is 1,050. And same with the school-wide. So then we'll analyze the school-wide bucket. And if 80% of the kids in the school are at 60th percentile growth or more, then everybody in the school gets that $700 or whatever percent below it would be. All right, discussion.
Lawyers don't do math. Sorry.
So in general numbers, I'll throw this out there, and I have to go through and model my testing to exactly mimic this to tell you precisely, but this would have the effect of approximately doubling the bonus that were paid out would pay out for 2022. If we had the same exact results in 2023, it nearly doubles the amount we pay in bonus. So to me, that's a risk of sorts, as you're doubling the bonus for the same exact thing that happened before that you felt was not acceptable. Not on a teacher by teacher basis. Some teachers did well, but across the board. But what it does do, I think effectively, is it certainly gets people thinking about a much larger bonus potential beyond that, and the collaboration necessary to get there. That's been the biggest focus, I feel, at least in conversations we've had as management, is how can we incent the behavior that we're seeing in some of the grade bands to occur in all of the grades. And we felt like, let's go crazy with the bonus. And if we end up getting max performance, we're going to cut about $420,000 in bonus checks to teachers. But we will be very happy to do that because we will be an A school and then some. And our students are the benefactors of this.
Well, I just want to emphasize that the main purpose is to grow our students. It's about data, looking really specifically at student data, growth data, not just comparing them to other students, but to themselves. It's their own growth, their personal growth. So we want to put more of a focus on data and making sure that when we talk about effectiveness, that we're connecting effectiveness to student growth data.
Right. I want to stretch a little bit on that, Ms. Garrison, because I think also this wow factor of 7,000 will help to solidify over the years systems of looking at data, systems of intervention, and habits of that'll last. I think it'll change the culture of how we look at data and how we look at kids. Ms. Mendonca, anything from you?
I have a couple serious questions.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if Beth has input though.
No, you cut out a little bit. I didn't hear if you asked me a question.
Oh, if you had any input, feedback.
Oh, no, I mean, I have some questions, but not, since I wasn't there this morning, but not about this. I'm fine with what you're presenting.
Okay.
But I'm happy to answer questions if anybody needs some clarification on what the growth line and what that means.
Okay. Go ahead, Ben.
I guess,
Ms. Garrison, do you have something?
it was Zuri.
Oh, Zuri, sorry, Zuri.
I guess from just a parent perspective, what changes do you feel, if any, it'll have on the impact to students' either experience in terms of, I guess I'm asking how teachers will be driving differently that we want to have a particular outcome, but what's the thrash in the middle that that scholars might get caught up in that might not be a positive experience? Or do you see any of that? I don't know if that question makes sense.
Go ahead, Victoria. I think that's a question for you.
Yeah, it does make sense. So one of the things we're going to do that we're putting into place, we're really looking specifically at interventions and looking specifically at how can we have teachers working together as a team, because that's the other part of it. It's synergy. It's working as a team. It's not just my students. These are our students. So changing our mindset to think more of collectively as a team. I may not, when I'm doing interventions, I may not have just my students in my class. It might be other students from other classes, and we might all be working together to make sure that students are, moving along and growing. So it's about the way we present it. It's about paradigm, making sure that the paradigm that we're using when we're putting practices into place, that it's about student growth and teachers working together as a team, not just teachers, all of us, the whole faculty working together, that the students are ours, not yours or yours or yours or yours, but ours, all of ours.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense. I think the only thing I'd say to keep in mind is when you incentivize so much on the what, that's the results, you can't forget about the how. And that's really, the experience for, I think, scholars and students. And so scholars and parents. And so I think it's just important as you double down on the what, as you double down on the results, and you'll get what you're looking for because people are motivated to do, to do that. It's just a matter of how they go about doing it and whether or not that's in alignment with the values that you still want to have. So that's my only comment.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, because go ahead, Victoria.
I just want to reemphasize the how. The only way is through synergy. It's through working together as a team. That's how. So if we put that in our mindset that we're really having to work together, it's not really just an individual game, then I think that changes the perspective too.
Yeah. Yeah. And getting back into the leader in me, the leadership notebooks, the kids' leadership binders, and the 4 disciplines, that whole series, that is the how that we make this. I'm really excited also about Mr. Johnson. He brings years of experience on just this, about how to use data for intervention. And he brings a different skill set than I have. And I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, we don't want to forget about our whole child, mission. I know people, we don't want to get into just only focusing on a test score. That's not what it's, it's still whole person. We still want to be whole. We still must be, because that's our mission, whole person minded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. When you don't measure that though, that's just maybe, but maybe not. And I get it conceptually saying, you're only going to win through synergies, but I don't know if they will need more tactics around how to get there and what that actually looks like. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the structure is incredible. I think Ms. Baker's points are spot on. That you have an opportunity here to make the teachers the evangelists, or the promoters of community-oriented professional development, right? Like they're now incentivized financially to help their colleagues be better teachers, and not just better teachers, but specifically focused on the whole person growth, the elements of the Paideia philosophy that make a well improving student. So, I mean, I for all the right reasons, I really love this structure. My questions were, I had 3 questions. They were mainly regarding clarity when delivering this to the staff, regarding there are multiple layers of percentages here, right? But with respect to above the line growth bonus, the part where you might start losing people is when you divide out the bucket the payout bucket into percentages again. If you could just eliminate that language or revise to indicate, the school-wide growth is $700 of the $7,000, instead of calling it a percentage, you might eliminate a layer of confusion about how things get paid out. That's
So
just
like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, my thought was explaining, payout, that the total payout is $7,000 divided as follows. School-wide growth is worth $700. Grade level growth is worth $2,100. Homeroom growth is worth $4,200.
I like that. Don't
And when you're
forget the
saying-
up to as well on the 7,000.
Yeah. And then so in your payout percentages in the previous section, 100% payout means 100% of that section of the total payout, I think is. And then you might even swap those in order, because the part that I think
That
is
descends, yeah.
might be getting lost is
Like that? Is that what you meant?
no, but actually I think that was good. I meant to put the payout, the division of payout, I would put that above the calculation. Yeah. We want to be clear that 80% of scholars at or above the 60th percentile growth line, that is for each bucket, right?
It needs to be like that, I think. You're right, Ben. Each one of those things, if there's no school-wide growth over 25%, no school-wide money gets paid out, but individual teacher money may. Same thing applies to a grade level.
Ms. Garrison, I'm typing and you're smart. So what do you think?
I'm,
Now, how ambitious a goal is 80% school-wide growth
Extremely.
above 60th percentile? I mean, is there any chance that the school-wide growth bucket gets paid to anyone if we structure it?
well, that's a good point too. That's a good question. But I'm trying right now. I'm not certain that I'm clear what you're doing there, Dr. Winsor. Are you just changing the?
I think Ben was saying if you have too many calculations and percentages in there, it starts to confuse. Is that kind of what
you're
you're
saying up to how much it is? Okay.
And it's up to 4,200, let's say, depending
Yes,
on the
okay.
payout calculation presented below or something like that, or based on the payout calculation below. So each one of those three is going to use the same calculation method to determine, except one of them is individual homeroom, one of them is grade level. So the whole grade level would have to be at least 25% above the 60th percentile for anybody to get paid out on that grade level. And then school-wide, same thing. And been in testing this on the financial side using this year's data, I would say the most likely payout is the personal.
Sure.
At the 80th percentile, because that you have more control over that to a degree. But as you get more teachers involved, obviously the variability of that goes down with even one grade level, and certainly goes down further school-wide to get to 80% is what I'm talking about. That's why we wanted to move the bulk of the payout to the personal, so that they're getting paid on something they have a little bit more accountability and control over directly, but there's still money to be made in those others. The rising tide raises all ships.
Again, I think this is great. I admire the effort to try to find the balance between incentive, like personal incentive, and to do well in the homeroom, and personal incentive to do well with your colleagues.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a really fine line here where if we did put too much toward grade level or school wide, you might sometime during the school year experience exhaustion around the amount of effort that we're putting in to try to raise all boats, right? So
yeah,
I think it's a good place to start. I hope to see more of the money move to the other buckets, because I think part of the Paideia philosophy is to raise all boats. So
yeah.
I don't know that it's the right I think this is better for data. I mean, for data collection reasons, at least, right? Like we need to see if this is even going to work.
Yeah.
But on that note, you might consider whether the payout threshold should be different for the different buckets. And maybe you already did that, but if the 60th percentile, if 80% across the board and the entire school is actually not reachable, then it's going to take us a year, but a year from now, all the teachers will know that. And it will have proven to be an illusory goal. So you don't want to discourage participation by making it unreachable. I just don't know. Like I haven't seen any of the data to have an idea of whether we're going to be able to push each other to that level.
Bear in mind, Ben, that's 80%. It gets them 100% of the payout, but from 25 to 79%, they get that percentage of the payout.
Yeah,
it's not like
right.
all the money is pass fail. It's just if you get 80%, you've got 100% of the bonus.
That's a really good point.
Yeah,
I don't know why I was stuck on that.
If we have 24% or less, I don't think we deserve any.
That's yeah, you're right. You're right.
Then this year we were 35%, 34% school-wide above the 60th
Okay.
percentile. So there was money paid this year on that. We want more than that, obviously, on the growth side. So we'd love to pay it all out. But you're right. It's unlikely that we'll pay out 100% of this bonus money. That's a fact. Like any bonus plan, there's a concept of breakage built into it. But we wanted to move the money into an area that they could access most of it for getting better results than they got this year.
No, you're right. I was completely disregarding that middle tier, and that the way it's laid out now that I'm looking at it as a whole, that's since it's a reach goal instead of the only goal, I think that's a lot more. It makes a lot more sense.
We'll want to be really clear in communicating this with teachers, because to your point, the worst thing we could do is do something we think is going to knock their socks off, and it ends up being this big alienation moment because they feel like they got screwed or it's unrealistic. We want to make sure they understand that a lot of that money is available. You're gonna make a bigger bonus this year than you did last year if you get the same results. That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's
And
good because
you did the executive
year,
team. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Well, that's a good point. Last year it was $3,000. This year it's on your own merit. You can get $3,000 plus. You can get $7,200 just on your own merit. So that's a chunk.
Yeah. And so other than messaging, which I think, the executive team devised this, I fully trust you to convey it and to, probably recruit some, some proponents from your staff to help convey it and to, massage the messaging so that, you're trying to deliver the whole thing in one page. Like I get the spacing, I get the choice of data and the limitations here. So it has to come along with the story that will explain it. Cause you'd be lucky if 60% or more of the teachers understand what the structure is without extensive explanation. The other substantive question I had though was, and Brian, you kind of noted, you might have identified it with this, adding the advisory. Which staff is eligible for these
That's
different
the wrestle.
levels?
That's the big wrestle. So at the PLA, all the teachers have an advisory group. So every teacher here has 20 kids that they are responsible for, whether you're art, music, PE, or math. So that's how they're doing their groups. On the other side, homeroom is really all content teachers. So the charge to Mr. Johnson is to go to his specials teachers, the art, PE, and music, and ask them the question, how are you going to get into this thing? What is your contribution in this? And then give them voice and how they're going to participate and make a meaningful impact in a homeroom or advisory capacity. Yeah.
is it as easy as just identifying the students that are in their advisory group? You're saying that if so, an advisory group has 20 students in it, those students are coming from different classrooms, right? From different homerooms?
Correct. Well, at PLA, Victoria, you want to explain that a little bit better than I can?
That's only in the PLA Academy. That's only in the 7th through 10th grade academy. But yes, they're divided out amongst all the staff. And they have their advisory period where they talk about their goals. They look at their data. They do their 7 habits, training and 7 habits lessons. That's where they do all of their their mindfulness. So those teachers are really dedicated to the growth and
Well-being, the whole for all
well-being.
well-being.
Yeah, they take care of that group of kids.
Of a
So they're
specific
really
set of kids.
responsible for them. Yeah.
And so you could for them just use the growth scores of the scholars that are in their advisory group.
Exactly. Mhm.
In contrast, so that's a low hanging fruit. In contrast, I don't know if this makes sense. It's just coming to me kind of half baked, but how does on the elementary side, how does the music teacher get at this? How do the interventionists get at this? The other specialists that are critical to the fabric of our community, like how do they get access to it? Can they?
Go ahead, Victoria.
Well, no, you might have more to say about it, Dr. Winsor, but this is part of our discussion with Mr. Johnson, and his grand idea, and I think it's a great idea, is to kind of take this back to them, back to that team, and ask them that question, get them in on that brainstorming, and get their expertise to come into play to answer that question.
And then run that idea by the executive staff to make sure that it is truly substantial.
Yeah.
Not, well, we're just gonna do more reading while we sing or something. Like, I don't know if that's good. That's not, you should be doing that anyway.
I think that begs the question, if this is approved today, what's the process for modifying it when it goes back into the think tank or whatever you want to call it?
Right.
We wouldn't have to modify it because it doesn't get down to that deep of detail. We wouldn't have to bring it back to the board if that's what you mean. Is that what you mean?
We're not changing the payout structure, are we?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't
No.
change the structure.
No, yeah, so that I get that. That makes sense. You might be changing the class of eligible teachers.
No, all the teachers now, interventionists aren't eligible.
Right. But what if in your think tank they come back with a way that interventionists can benefit from overall growth of their grade level or the school or what have you?
Well, that's outside their stewardship and authority. So I would just tell them, no, this bucket is for teachers. That's our focus right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I could be candid with them and gentle.
I mean, if you think whatever is going to happen to it, if it doesn't change the structure to the degree that it has to come back to the board, then I think we should pass this thing.
All right. I would like to, and one other thing, Ben, I think you brought up a good point, but I want to stretch and go on record to say this, that if we present this to all the staff, I think they'll be excited, but the next question is, oh my God, how? So the other thing is to give them plenty of tools and exact structure of how do we meet this? How do we do this? Because with this great idea and goal without tools, it's going to be frustrating in October. So that's where Brian and Sam's charge is to give them the structure, give them the routines, the systems to be successful. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because I appreciate Mrs. Baker's point on making sure that we give some clear strategies on the how while not interrupting our philosophies of education.
Yeah, exactly. I would like to entertain.
One quick question. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
one quick thing. I know we beat the whole horse. Is this marketed as just a pilot for Like at the top, is it just a pilot for 1 year or what?
Great question.
The CSF is always 1 year at a time.
Okay, so that's clear at the top. I'm sorry. I
So I'll
don't
make sure
know
everybody
about that.
knows that this is a wonderful amount of money. We're not going to guarantee this. This is to this year. If you want this money, get it done this
Right
year.
now. Yep.
Okay, can you scroll up? I just wanted to see what was at the top of the doc. Got it. Okay, okay. Okay, that's it. Okay, we're ready.
All right, entertain a motion. That is item number 5.
I'm going to try to run the board here. So I move to
Go for it.
adopt the classroom site fund plan as modified during the meeting for the school year of 22-23.
And the second,
I'll second Zuri Baker.
Zuri. And a roll call vote. Dr. Winsor, yes. Miss Garrison,
Yes.
Mrs. Mendonca,
Yes.
Dr. Pena,
Yes.
Dr. Tietgen,
Yes.
Mrs. Baker.
Yes.
Hallelujah. What a great meeting. I believe that's all the items. Good job, you guys. Like only 1 hour and 20 minutes. I'm proud of us.
That was heavy lifting for this part of it. And I apologize for asking any redundant questions. Brian can attest, I have never missed a meeting that I can remember without notifying.
No.
But I was in Malibu with my family. So
Good for you.
there, that makes it all better. Right?
That's the right place to be. Hey, Ben, actually, Beth and I were just talking about you the other day, and it was the value that Ben, an attorney's brain, brings to the board is like so high because you do think of those
Absolutely.
questions. You know, we value that. I would entertain a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
other than Ben.
Too late.
Ben, good job. A second,
I'll second.
Victoria. All in favor, say aye.
Hey.
Aye.
And any opposed? None. Our meeting is adjourned, and I will send out the meeting notice for the next one, but normally it's on the 3rd Monday, and we'll go to them. Thank you guys so much.
This is
Yeah,
DocuSign now, Brian?
Yeah, how soon do we have to sign?
Really soon, right? Don't we have to post this on the 10th?
Ideally, have the signed cover sheet within the next 5 or 6 business days. That would be wonderful. The
I'll send
posting
it
it,
out
we
as
can
a
post an
DocuSign.
unsigned version on the website now if we want to.
I'll send it as a DocuSign by the time I go home tonight.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody.
Good to see everyone. Thank you.